Is it time? It's time. Yo. Ooh. Ooh. Only 23. I feel like I'm 33. So this indictment is long and hard, and I'm ready for it to fuck me. Ooh, but first. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Making sure that works. This thing is 98 pages. Alright. I'm gonna try and get through this. I don't know how well I'm gonna succeed. Okay. So it was filed yesterday in Fulton County, Georgia. So let's take a look at it. The state of Georgia v. Donald Trump and all of his cronies for a great number of criminal counts. And I'll just read through all of them. I won't read through the names just yet. I'll read through all the counts first. Violation of the Georgia RICO Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. Solicitation of violation of oath by public officer. False statements and writings. False statements and writings. Solicitation of violation of oath of public officer. Solicitation of violation of oath of public officer. False statements and writing. Impersonating a public officer. So these are multiple counts because there's multiple times. Impersonating a public officer. Oof. Conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer. Forgery in the first degree. Conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree. False statements and writings. Conspiracy to commit false statements and writings. Criminal attempt to commit filing false documents. Conspiracy to commit filing false documents. Forgery in the first degree. Conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree. False statements and writings. Conspiracy to commit false statements and writings. Criminal attempt to commit criminal attempt to commit influencing witnesses. Criminal attempt to commit influencing witnesses. Criminal attempt to commit false statements and writings. Solicitation of violation of oath by public officer. False statements and writings. False statements and writings. Okay. Oh, there's more. False statements and writings. Filing false docs. Solicitation. Yeah. False statement. Yeah. Influencing a witness. Conspiracy to commit election fraud. Conspiracy to commit election fraud. Conspiracy to commit computer theft. Conspiracy to commit computer trespass. Conspiracy to commit computer invasion of privacy. Conspiracy to defraud the state. Solicitation. Yeah. Okay. Those are more. Perjury. Alright. Okay. We're gonna keep skipping this. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's look at who all's in it again then. Okay. We got Donald John Trump, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Mark Meadows, Kenneth Chesebro, I'm calling him Cheese Bro. It's so much funnier. He's Cheese Bro now. Jeffrey Clark, Jenna Ellis, Ray Smith III, Robert Cheeley, Michael Roman, David Schaefer, Sean Micah Thresher Still. It's a long name. Stephen Lee, Harrison Floyd, Trevian Cootie, Sidney Powell. Ooh, Sidney Powell's in this too. Fun. Kathleen Latham, Scott Hall, Misty Hampton, aka Emily Misty Hayes. Okay. So, let's actually get into it now. Scroll. Okay. The grand jurors aforesaid, in the name of behalf of the citizens of Georgia, do hereby charge and accuse Don Trump, Rudy Giuliani, John Niesman, Mark Meadows, Kenneth Cheesebro, Jeffrey Clark, Jenna Ellis, Ray Smith, Robert Shealy, Michael Roman, David Schaefer, Sean Still, Stephen Lee, Harrison Floyd, Trevian Cootie, Sidney Powell, Kathleen Latham, Scott Hall, and Misty Hampton, with the offense of violation of the Georgia RICO Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, OCGA, for the said accused individually and as persons concerned in the commission of a crime, and together with unindicted co-conspirators in the state of Georgia and county of Fulton, on and between the 4th day of November 2020 and the 15th day of September of 2022, while associated with an enterprise unlawfully conspired and endeavored to conduct and participate in, directly and indirectly, such enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity in violation of blah, as described below and incorporated by reference as if fully set forth herein, contrary to the laws of said state, the good order, peace, and dignity thereof. Introduction. Oh, first, I will get thing. Okay. Now I gotta take a fucking screenshot of that. Put it in Paint. First I gotta find that video. Okay. Got what I needed. Alright. Open up the twatter. Ratcam. Hell yeah. Ratcam's live. Shout out to the Ratcam. Go right now. I think okay. Alright. Let's find that. The link. there. Okay. All right. Let's get back to it. Introduction. Defendant Donald John Trump lost the U.S. presidential election held on November 3rd, 2020. One of the states he lost was Georgia. Trump and the other defendants charged in this indictment refused to accept that Trump lost, and they knowingly and willfully joined a conspiracy to unlawfully change the outcome of the election in favor of Trump. That conspiracy contained a common plan and purpose to commit 2 or more acts of racketeering activity in Fulton County, Georgia, elsewhere in the state of Georgia, and in other states. This can all be further explained by the January 6th committee, which I've watched in totality. It's quite damning. In fact, I will go ahead and find the playlist for it. Okay. Can find it there. Alright, back to it. Yeah. We already read that. The Enterprise. At all times relevant to this count of the indictment, the defendants, as well as others not named as defendants, unlawfully conspired and endeavored to conduct and participate in a criminal enterprise in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere. Defendants John Trump, Rudy Giuliani, all those people here. Unindicted co-conspirators, individual 1 through individual 30, and others known and unknown to the grand jury, constituted a criminal organization whose members and associates engaged in various related criminal activities, including but not limited to false statements and writings, personating a public officer, forgery, filing false documents, influencing witnesses, computer theft, computer trespass, computer invasion of privacy, conspiracy to defraud the state, acts involving theft, and perjury. This criminal organization constituted as an enterprise, as that term is defined in the RICO law. That is, a group of individuals associated in fact. The defendants and other members and associates of the enterprise had connections and relationships with one another and with the enterprise. The enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members and associates functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of said enterprise. It was operated in Fulton County, Georgia, elsewhere in the state of Georgia, and in other states, including but not limited to Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, and D.C. The enterprise operated for a period of time sufficient to permit its members and associates to pursue its objectives. Okay. Manner and methods of enterprise. So, obviously, Georgia wasn't alone in having Donald Trump try and overturn official state electors, or you know, him losing the election fair and square. He tried it in a lot of other places. Manner and methods of the enterprise. The manner and methods used by the defendants and other members of the associated to further the goals of the enterprise and to achieve its purposes included but were not unlimited to the following: false statements to and solicitation of state legislatures. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, appeared at hearings in Fulton County, Georgia, before members of the Georgia General Assembly on December 3rd, 2020, December 10th, 2020, and December 30th, 2020. At these hearings, members of the enterprise made false statements concerning fraud in the presidential election. The purpose of the false statements was to persuade Georgia legislatures to reject lawful electoral votes cast by the duly elected and qualified presidential electors from Georgia. Members of the enterprise corruptly solicited Georgia legislatures instead to unlawfully appoint their own presidential electors for the purpose of casting them for Donald Trump. Members of the enterprise also made false statements to state legislatures during hearings and meetings in Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania in November and December of 2020 to persuade legislatures in those states to unlawfully appoint their own presidential electors. So, people involved in this indictment went to the legislatures of Georgia and wanted them, didn't make them obviously, wanted them to make up fake electors in order to cast them for Donald Trump because they were coping over the fact that they lost. Two, false statements to the solicitation of high-ranking state officials. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, made false statements in Fulton County and elsewhere in the state of Georgia to Georgia officials, including the governor, the Secretary of State, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Members of the enterprise also corruptly solicited Georgia officials, including Secretary of State, Speaker of House of Representatives, to violate their oaths to the Georgia Constitution and to the U.S. Constitution by unlawfully changing the outcome of the election in Georgia in favor of Donald Trump. Members of the enterprise also made false statements to and solicited state officials in Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Yes. So, yeah, they made false statements to and solicited to high-ranking state officials in all of those states. I remember learning about that in the fucking hearings for Jan 6 committee. 3, creation and distribution of false electoral college documents. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, created false electoral college documents. Yeah. Yikes. And created individuals to convene and cast false electoral college votes at the Georgia State Capitol in Fulton County on December 14th, 2020. After the false electoral college votes were cast, members of the enterprise transmitted the votes to the President of the United States Senate, the Archivist of the U.S., Georgia Secretary of State, and the Chief Judge of the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia. The false documents were intended to disrupt and delay the joint session of Congress on Jan 6th in order to unlawfully change the outcome. Yeah. Similar schemes were executed by members of the enterprise in Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Yeah. Harassment, intimidation of election worker Ruby Freeman. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, falsely accused Fulton County election worker Ruby Freeman of committing election crimes in Fulton County, Georgia. With these false accusations were repeated to Georgia legislatures and other Georgia officials in an effort to persuade them to unlawfully change the outcome. Yep, and so she was also used against those guys in their election. In furtherance of this scheme, members of the enterprise traveled from out of state to harass Freeman, intimidate her, and solicit her to falsely confess to election crimes that she did not commit. That is horrible. 5. Solicitation of high-ranking U.S. Department Justice officials. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, corruptly solicited high-ranking U.S. Department Justice officials to make false statements to government officials in Fulton County, Georgia, including the governor, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the President pro tempore of the Senate. In one instance, Donald Trump stated to the acting U.S. Attorney General, quote, "Just say the election was corrupt, and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman," end quote. That speaks for itself. Damn. Anyways, solicitation of the vice president of the U.S. You know, they tried to persuade Mike Pence. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, corruptly solicited the vice president of the U.S. to violate the Constitution and federal law by unlawfully rejecting electoral college votes cast in Fulton County, Georgia, by the duly elected and qualified presidential electors from Georgia. Members of the enterprise also corruptly solicited the vice president to reject votes cast by the duly elected and qualified presidential electors from several other states. Unlawful breach of election equipment in Georgia and elsewhere. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, corruptly conspired in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere to unlawfully access secure voting equipment and voter data. In Georgia, members of the enterprise stole data, including ballot images, voting equipment software, and personal voter information. Stolen data was then distributed to other members of the enterprise, including members in other states. Okay. So they tried to tamper with... You can't have any, you fat dog. Okay, so they actually tried to data breach shit. Whoops. I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat shit. Fuck you. I can do whatever. Obstructive acts and furtherance of the conspiracy and cover-up. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, filed false documents, made false statements to government investigators, and committed perjury in judicial proceedings in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere, in furtherance to cover up the conspiracy. Here's all the acts of it. How many are there? Over 50. Over 100. Okay, well, this is really long. Oh man. This is just, I'm not reading through this whole thing, no. This is so long. At least not in one sitting. There's so many. There's so many. Yeah, it's mainly on the acts of the Rico case. There. So. Looks like they'll get to it soon. Because, like, all this is already known. I don't see why this shouldn't go quick, you know? Dang. I should have ate something before I got on. I'm so hungry. Maybe I can get on later tonight and try after I eat something more substantial. I'll do that.